turn off your cell phones down or to vibrate. I'd like to call the Hammond Redevelopment Commission meeting to order on this Tuesday, November 17th. It is now 4:30, and if you can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a quick moment of silence after. Okay, thank you on that. Roll call on the commissioners.
Soto Presley.
Here.
Casperky.
Here.
Navejas.
Here.
Myricks.
Here.
Hopperidge.
Here, for the record, all 5 are present. I'm absent. Number 3, declaration of conflict of interest. Number 4, communications.
None were received.
All right, number 5, minutes, October 20th, 2015.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes for October 20th, 2015 for the Hammond Redevelopment Commission.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on October 20th, 2015 minutes. Is there any corrections or additions or discussion on these minutes? Okay, since there is none, roll call on the minutes.
Soto Presley.
Yes.
Casperky.
Yes.
Navejas.
Yes.
Myricks.
Yes.
Hopperidge.
Yes, motion passes, 5 yes. Number 6, homebound conditional forgivable loan approval.
Commissioners, this is for homebound conditional forgivable loan approval. There's 5 here, 1 from last week, so there's a few changes. Does everybody want to come up for homebound? I have April Brown that was supposed to be here last week. You guys did approve her, but she is here today. She's the one that is a city employee, well, she's a police officer with the city, so she's receiving $3,500. And then also Darian Richardson that's on the list, he is being moved to the next redevelopment commission meeting.
Do we know anything about Juan Pena from last time?
No, not yet.
Commissioners, if nobody minds, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and say congratulations, but today we have a issue of expediency, so I'd like to move we approve the homebound conditional forgivable loan program. And again, thank you for coming out. I don't mean to be short, but I think we're trying to move things along a little bit today.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the homebound conditional forgivable loan approval for the applicants that are in attendance tonight, and we thank April Brown as well for coming out.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you for coming out. I know it's short. Normally we like to talk to you, but
Okay, then, roll call, please.
Soto Presley.
Yes.
Casperky.
yes.
Navejas.
Yes.
Myricks.
Yes.
Hopperidge.
Yes, motion passes, 5 yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming out.
Okay, paper has one more for us, number 7, home program conditional loan approval for Myrna Rios, 7129 Arizona, and Charles Snyder for 7130 Holman Avenue.
They are both present as well. Charles and Myrna, you guys want to come up?
Do you again.
Mr. Schneider, looks like you're undertaking quite a project.
Well, I'm accepting and undertaking quite a project, actually. I think it's very kind of the city of Hammond. I want to thank everyone for allowing this program to move ahead, giving me the opportunity to help beautify and make Hammond a better place to live.
Thank you.
So, Mrs. Snyder, I know, you know that we're pressed for time, but has the loan program been explained to you?
I'm sorry.
Has the loan program been explained to you?
It has.
And
Yes.
do you understand the terms of the program?
I do. I've been talking to Jennifer and Gary quite a bit.
Okay. And do you have any questions for us?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really. Just the terms, it's the middle of winter. We're going to get started. You think, oh, man,
Okay.
cause a little anxiety. And we have to go in those pods and sleep in the pod. I don't know how many heat it.
Okay. Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the home program conditional loan approval for the two applicants.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the home program conditional loan approval for Myrna Rios, 7129 Arizona, and Charles Snyder, 7130 Home Avenue. If there's no more discussion or questions, roll call.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Kespricki?
Yes.
Navejas?
Yes.
Myrix?
Yes.
Hopperidge?
Yes, motion passes 5 yes.
Thank you, folks.
Congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, number 8 is approval of feasibility study for the sports complex.
Commissioners, you have in your packet a proposal from Johnson Consulting, and I know we're pressed for time, but I do want to spend a few minutes on this. Obviously, we are proposing a potential sports complex at a site in Hammond. Although the site that's been talked about the most is the vacant Walmart, we are looking at several different sites right now. But as part of this process, the administration was very adamant about having a study done to make sure that we do have a need for this type of project in our community, and not only that, that operationally we will be able to be in the black, that we won't be having to subsidize a project like this going forward. So we reached out to 3 separate companies for proposals on feasibility studies, and the most responsive and really the only real response came from Johnson Consulting. I want to have Christopher Budd come up to the podium, and he knows we're pressed for time also, but he can give a brief overview of Johnson. And also I want just to make sure you hit on some of the other cities that you've done feasibility studies for in the past as well.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for this opportunity. We're very excited to try and help you guys out with this. But just getting right down to it, we've been at Johnson Consulting, we're going on our 20th year doing financial feasibility studies and market studies. In addition to sports facilities, we do mixed-use real estate, hospitality, convention centers. So we really understand not just, what will a sports complex do, but how could it affect all of the other, types of businesses and meeting space within the area. Just in the last year, if I could rattle off some projects of very similar scopes, Yakima, Washington, West Seneca, New York, just outside of Buffalo. We're about to kick one off in Dearborn, Michigan, Santa Rosa, California, Branson, Missouri, Austin, Texas. We do national work and international work, but I think the fact that we're just up the road in Chicago, we're very accessible. We can be here in person, and we can certainly always be available for conference calls and emails. So, we look forward to understanding the market and determining first and foremost is what's your greatest need, and is a sports complex what you need? And if it's not, then that's where we draw the line with our studies, so we're not going to waste your time and money, and we're not going to waste our time. So we're not, we're eager to get in here and get started and understand what your need is, and how can you guys potentially fill a void within the regional marketplace. If that void exists and we think that a sports complex makes sense, then how is this a standalone facility? How can we drive revenues? What types of events can you bring in? What types of event holders can you attract? And so part of that will be assessing sites and determining what the best program of the facility could be. That's a brief overview of what we do and what we hope to accomplish here. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Let me just also, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, one of the reasons we were impressed with Johnson Consulting, well, the fact they're in Chicago, which obviously is a neighboring community, which we appreciated. The other companies that we were looking at that also had an extensive resume of cities that they had worked with were either on the West Coast or farther on the east. So it's nice to have somebody from a neighboring community. And also, with their proposal, it was the most comprehensive, and it really nailed the points that we were really looking for. And I had the same conversation with all 3 groups that we talked to about getting this feasibility study done. Go ahead, Commissioner. I'm sorry.
I know that if we don't have a site, we don't have an architect, but, I mean, do we know what we're looking at? I mean, like, how many are we looking at, like, I looked at all the resumes in there, 19 fields, or just indoor? I mean, do we have even a ballpark idea of what we're looking at yet? By the way, I think it's an exciting program. I'm glad of the feasibility and such, and the black ink, but I'm just curious if we have even a footprint.
Sure, and part of the reason I bring up the fact that we're looking at several sites. Obviously, we have a number one site that we're interested in. I think it's the best site in the city. It makes sense for a lot of different reasons. However, we don't have an agreement in place just yet. So that's why I want to be careful saying it's going to be at the vacant Walmart property, because we're in negotiations, we're talking to them. It's not completed. The negotiation is not completed as of yet.
And I understand that. I was just saying, do we know we're looking for 10 soccer fields and 5 basketball courts, or did that come up in the study, or are we not at that level yet?
Well, they haven't done any of the study yet. They just prepared the proposal. But I think you're exactly right. I think part of the study would be, and I'll let Christopher answer, but that would be part of the study is getting research on how many soccer fields, how many basketball courts would make sense, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we do with the first phase of the study, the market analysis. What do you guys need? We would never want to go in someplace and just say build 12 soccer fields or 12 basketball courts, because if the market can't support that, it'll go under, and nobody wants that. So that's part of our due diligence. We want to understand what your needs are from a local and a regional, or if you want to be national, a national basis. But that's part of what we will accomplish here.
I also mentioned, we also put out an RFQ. I believe it went out on November 14th, request for qualifications for design engineering companies to submit basically a resume, to talk to different groups to see who we want to work with, who would make the most sense for this particular project. So at the same time that we'll be moving forward with the study, which I think is one of the first steps, we also will be, and they'll be opened at Redevelopment Commission, so you'll be here. I can't remember the date on it. I don't know if Cynthia remembers, but.
It's going to be on the agenda for December 1st, but it ran on November 14th, and it runs again November 21st.
So December 1st meeting will actually open up the responses to the RFQ as well. So just want to throw that in.
Commissioners, if there's no questions, I would like to move we approve the approval of a feasibility study for a sports complex.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval feasibility study for the sports complex. Roll call then.
Soto Presley,
Yes.
Casperky,
Yes.
Navejas,
Yes.
Myricks,
Yes.
Alpert.
Yes, motion passes, 5 yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, number 9, 5135-5137 Holman Avenue, J.C. Penney. The award of environmental abatement and demolition contingent on the HUD release of funds and approval of project management agreement.
Commissioners, Mr. Blasky is here.
Good evening. I'd like to start off with, I submitted a letter of review for the bids, and the low bidder for the environmental abatement was Peak Services out of St. John. However, on my review, and I confirmed this with Cynthia on her copy of the bid, there were 3 pages of State Form 96 missing, including the signature, the financial statement portion, and the contractor's non-collusion affidavit with a notarized acknowledgement. That's required for work over $100,000 in Indiana. They also did not complete or notarize the affidavit of E-Verify compliance, which is required by the Homeland Security. In their bid, they put, for reclaiming refrigerant containing appliances, they put demo contractor, which means they didn't include that in their bid. I did talk to a gentleman from Peak Services today, and he asked, well, can I just sign those forms and drop them off? And I said, I'm not sure, I don't think so. So I discussed it with Attorney Westland for his opinion on that, if that's allowable, since it was not included in the bid.
You do have the ability to waive minimal deficiencies in a bid response. However, you know, those are three
Important.
sort of main, and I guess the risk would be is if you awarded it and had them satisfy those deficiencies, now you've already opened all the bids. So I think you kind of defeat the purpose of a sealed bid if you start taking that kind of information after the fact.
And if I could add to that, this is not a small bid. The bid was $174,440 from Peak Services. The other two bidders that were next in low was $183 and another $2,000. So you're looking at about $11,000 difference between using Peak Services or the other low bidders on the job. So, which really isn't that much money. in the
Well,
overall
and I would
assets
just
of
add
the
that your
project.
obligation under the law is to determine the lowest, most responsive and responsible bidder.
Yeah, but we're-
So you tell me, you know, based on that $11,000 difference, who the most responsive and responsible bidder is that was also the lowest.
Well, I don't know, in my opinion, the cheapest is not always the best. You know, if they couldn't do their due diligence here, how can we trust them to do what's required? So, I mean, in my opinion, I think we should even be discussing, even entertaining to do any type of business with them. That's just my opinion.
I think I'm on the same page. If we have a bid deadline and a proper way to fill out the packet, then that's what we should stick with, and let alone mess with anything with Homeland Security.
Very good.
I
Well,
also agree with Commissioner Kesperky and Commissioner,
That guy.
calling
Well-
by your first name, anyway, because they left out three very important pieces of information. I don't want to have to worry about that. For me, the next,
I just think it's a nightmare waiting to happen.
yeah,
okay. Well, with that,
I can't find the quote, I'm sorry to jump in here, but somewhere in there was a point about backfilling with sand or whatever, that since there was an unknown, and I can't seem to put my finger on it.
that's the demolition portion of the bid, which,
Can you touch on that real quick?
I can. Well, could I jump back to the environmental real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay, the next two bidders was Midwest Construction Services, and that was for 5137 Holman Avenue, which is the J.C. Penney building, for $183,000. And the low bidder on the carb laboratory building, which is directly north and attached, was from Environmental Assurance, and their bid was $2,250. And that would conclude the environmental portion of the bid. As for the demolition phase, right, the low bid received for that was from Alliance Demolition Services out of Chicago for $388,930. We had an alternate included on the bid form to backfill the site with recycled concrete. The difference for that was $10,000 less. And my opinion on that, for $10,000 less, I'm thinking you may want to go with the clean sand that was in the original bid for $388,000 versus $387,000 for recycled concrete.
And if I could jump in, so the reason that's important is if there is some sort of redevelopment at this site in the future, if you have the recycled concrete in there, it could actually cause a problem for a new developer in the future. Now, right now, our focus is probably just making a parking lot, and it'll service businesses that are next door. But you never know what's going to happen in the future. For $10,000, it could cause, you know, a $50,000, $60,000 issue for a developer in the future. So I thought it wasn't worth it. We might as well get the clean sand that we're asking for.
I agree.
And the bid, our original estimated cost for this project was over $600,000. So they did come in considerably under our engineered budget for the project. It was probably $80,000 less than what we estimated.
So we're knocking down the property also that a private owner has?
Yes.
Wasn't there a common wall or something?
Yes.
Correct. So it was gonna cost us more money if we did not have his property as part of the demolition as well. So even though it's a private owner, what we're doing in this process, because we don't own the J.C. Penney building either, this is through our slum and blight elimination program. So both buildings are slum and blight. We did not have the smaller building, the CARB lab building on our, in our eyesight, I guess, at the time. But because it was gonna cost us, in the long run, $50,000 or somewhere in that range more, if we didn't do it, it just made sense. We actually saved money by knocking down the building that's adjacent to it as well.
I actually didn't realize, I thought we owned the J.C. Penney.
We do not.
And the one last thing to the recommendation is to, if you decide to award the work, award it contingent upon the release of the HUD funding, all right? In which that may be in 2 weeks, maybe a week or 2 weeks. It might be, as soon as they give us the letter or fill the letter that says, actually give the mayor the letter that says, the funds have been released, then you could actually, we would prepare the contract for Phil to sign. So we're awarding it tonight contingent upon the release of funds, which we're expecting a week or two.
Soon.
Yeah.
So how are we voting on this?
I would say upon his recommendation.
I think if you're looking to follow Mr. Blaski's recommendation, on page 2 of his report, there's a summary and recommendation provision, or paragraph. So a motion consistent with that, and you'll see the last line says should be contingent upon HUD release of funds for the project. So I think if you would recite that, if that's what you're looking to do, then that would be an appropriate motion.
Or if you'd like me to present it, or?
I think it's there.
Commissioners, Mr. President, I move that we accept the summary and recommendation and professional opinion for the following bids for the environmental abatement and demolition to be considered for award. Environmental abatement, 5137 Holman, $183,000. 5135 Holman, $2,250. Demolition, 5135-5137 Holman, $388,930. And as written, that any award should be contingent, the HUD release of funds for this project.
I second that.
Very good. We have a motion and a second for 5135 and 5137 Holman Avenue for the J.C. Penney. The award of environmental abatement and demolition contingent on the HUD release of funds for approval of project management agreement.
Well, we haven't gotten to the project management agreement yet, but that's next.
We have a roll call if there's no more questions or discussion for Mr. Blatz.
Soto Presley,
Yes.
Kasperky,
Yes.
Navejas,
Yes.
Myrick,
Yes.
Hopperidge.
Yes. Motion passes. 5 yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. On the approval for project management, we wanted to wait for the bids to come in before we could award a project management cost. A typical project management cost could be between 7 and 10%. I actually worked with Mr. Blaski to get it below 7%, so you have it in front of you. If you have any questions.
So we're still looking to approve this at this time, even though it's not, we don't have the hard paperwork.
Correct. Yeah, it wouldn't, obviously, the project management goes in correlation with the actual demolition project. So if for some reason the demolition project didn't go forward, which absolutely it should. There should be no reason it should. Correct, it's a separate approval.
You could make a motion to approve the project management agreement presented contingent upon the HUD release of funds.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the project management agreement. We have a roll call then.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Kasperky?
Yes.
Navejas?
Yes.
Myricks?
Yes.
Hopperidge?
Yes, motion passes 5 yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you also, Mr. Westland.
No problem.
All right, number 10, approval of change order number 1 for site modifications for stormwater drainage for 6355 Indianapolis Boulevard.
Commissioners, as you may recall, we actually performed a demolition using our slum and blight removal program at 6355 Indianapolis Boulevard. After the demolition, it was shown by our city engineer that now, due to the demolition, the water is going to drain onto Indianapolis Boulevard and potentially cause a flooding hazard, which obviously is not acceptable. So through that process, we've been working to have a proposal put together. Because I'm not as familiar with this type of work, I actually asked Stan Dostotny, the city engineer, to review the proposal and the numbers that were given. He said the numbers and the proposal is reasonable and it will accomplish what we need to fix based on our demolition project. So that's what you have in front of you today.
I'm sorry, not one to question Mr. Dostotny, so I move we approve said change order number 1 for site modifications for stormwater drainage for 6355 Indianapolis.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. If there's any questions or discussion, only comment I'm going to make is that it is a pretty simple modification. All right, then roll call, please.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Kasperky?
Yes.
Navejas?
Yes.
Myricks?
Yes.
Hopperidge?
Yes,
Thank you, Commissioner.
motion passes.
Thank you, John.
All right, number 11, reports.
Due to our time constraint, I have no report for today.
All right, number 12, register of claims for September 30th, 2015 through November 17th, 2015.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to pay the register of claims for September 30th, 2015 through November 17th, 2015. Register of claims R52521 through R52707. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the register of claims for September 30th, 2015 through November 17th, 2015 for claims R52521 through R52707. Is there any questions or discussion on these claims for staff? There is none, then roll call.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Kasperky?
Yes.
Navejas?
Yes.
Myricks?
Yes.
Hopperidge?
Yes. Motion passes on the bills, 5 yes. Okay, number 13 is new and unfinished business.
Commissioners, you have in front of you a resolution that will grant Dennis Radowski, who is the Executive Director of United Neighborhoods, Inc., as an authorized signer in regards to Lot 25, which is more specifically 7027 Carolina Court in Hammond, Indiana, in regards to the sale of this property. As you know, the Redevelopment Commission owns the property at Parish View. However, we have contracted with United Neighborhoods, Inc. for the construction of several homes, as well as sale of lots. So that's why we're asking for, at this time, to give Dennis permission to actually sign at the closing for this specific lot. Oh, I'm sorry. And also, the second one, so that Dennis Radowski is hereby authorized and directed in the name on behalf of the Hammond Redevelopment Commission to negotiate and execute purchase agreements necessary for the Hammond Redevelopment Commission to sell properties in the Parish View subdivision.
I so move.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
And just for the record, I mean, the title company is requiring this. Normally, you would have had Phil do it, but because United Neighborhoods is out there and Dennis is familiar with it, it doesn't make sense to have both of them running around doing this stuff. So this will ease the title company and allow this to sort of go in a more streamlined fashion.
I agree. I actually saw Dennis yesterday out there too, so he's constantly out there and knows what's going on with the lots and the new construction of these homes. All right, we have a motion and a second then. If there's no discussion, roll call please.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Casperky?
Yes.
Navejas?
Yes.
Myrick?
Yes.
Hopperidge?
Yes, motion passes 5 yes. Okay, number 14, public comment. If anybody would like to come forward, it is open now. You have 3 minutes. Okay, public comment closed. Number 15.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you all signify by saying aye?